I am Yvonne Mason with Mary Brotherton. This is All Things Books and Publishing, and we have so many things to talk about this morning. As y'all know, every Wednesday we sit down and we have conversations about the publishing world, about midnight publishing, about our authors, about books, about the sometimes stupidity in the world of people who do not understand publishing, what it entails, how it happens, the formatting, all of that good stuff. So let's start, Mary, with AI, because you and I had this conversation yesterday. Yesterday, in the world of publishing, over the centuries, from the time of the printed word, it has evolved. Nothing has stayed the same. And if you do not embrace the evolution of the publishing world, you're going to get left behind. That's just the way it is. And it doesn't mean that AI is going to take over your life. I was talking to my friend that I was taking to Orlando yesterday, and we were talking about AI. Peggy Engler, one of our authors. And she said, Yvonne, I just don't want AI to take over my writing. I said, Peggy, it's not the writing. I said, this is what I do to create graphics. When I edit your book, I don't use AI. I use my eyes, my brain, and my thought process, because I'm not totally incompetent yet. Give it another few weeks and maybe, but not totally incompetent yet. So
Another
no,
few weeks and three more authors.
and three more authors. So understand, ladies and gentlemen, when I say we use AI, I use AI to create the graphics for the children's books. I use AI sometimes to create the book covers. And the reason for that is it is just like the evolution of the toilet. Let's think about this. Thousands of years ago, people used the bathroom outside just like the animals did. There were no indoor toilets, there were no outhouses. So, did anybody complain when somebody said, oh, let's make an outhouse to give us a little more privacy? No, they did not. They embraced it. Did anybody complain when somebody said, oh, well, let's do it even better? Let's add a room that holds a toilet, a sink, and a bathtub with running water, and we'll call it a bathroom. No, they didn't. They embraced it. This is what we're doing at Midnight Publishing. Mary and I have used AI graphics for all of her children's books that have just come out. And I've never seen anybody's heart stop so many different times as Mary's when she's telling me about the graphics. So now you get to talk about it.
I love the last email you sent. Tell your heart to be still. Because usually I would respond when she'd send me a graphic or text me something. I'd think, be still my heart. And so she beat me on that one. She said, tell your heart to be still. And I think it was the rules book or the Giants book? I think it was the Giants book. Because I didn't intend it to be an anti-bully book, but it turned into one. But I remember when I first looked at the images, I had to get away from my computer because my heart started pounding so fast that I thought it was going to literally bounce out of my chest. And I walked away and I went and sat down and I called Yvonne. I'm like, I can't think, I can't talk, I can't breathe. And so she basically talked me down from this spiral. Most people say they're spiraling out of control. I was just going up and up, and I was so thrilled with the results that she got. And I've watched Yvonne's evolution with AI. She started out one way and we went another direction, and now the images are absolutely beyond what I ever expected. And just because it's always been done this way doesn't mean that is the way it needs to be done. In fact, tell you a cute little joke I heard recently. Young woman child or whatever was watching her mother cook, and she noticed that before she put the roast in the pan, she cut the two ends off of it and put them in the pan with it. She said, Mom, why do you do that? And she says, I don't know. My mom always did it that way. You're going to have to ask her. So she calls up Grandma. She says, Grandma, I'm watching Mom cook, and I don't understand why she's cutting the ends of the roast off. And she said, the pan's plenty big for it to just fit into the pan. And the grandmother said, well, your great grandma's still alive, but kind of feeble, but let me ask her when I see her again. And she goes to the nursing home, she talks to her mother, and she said, Mom, why did you always cut the ends of the roast off before you put it in the oven? She says, because I didn't have a big enough roasting pan. People do things because they've always been done this way, not necessarily because it's the best way. I mean, Grandma back in the 1940, or great grandma, would have been in the early 1900s, wouldn't have been able to afford everything that the newer people can afford. And nowadays you can get anything custom for everything. You have an air fryer, you have a special blender for this and another one for that. So there's so many, and we've got juicers and a pan for this, that, and the other. Why can't we embrace this technology? It's a scary thing, I understand, because it's artificial intelligence. Well, the intelligence is not like take over the world intelligence. It's just something that has an adaptability. My husband is a computer software programmer. He writes the code for the Matrix. If anybody's ever seen the Matrix, they'll probably remember the scene where the young man's looking at all the X's and O's and the things going down the screen. He goes, I see red car, blue car, blonde in a red dress. And he's pointing out the code, and he's saying it's just code. You can make anything from code. And I've watched my husband do it, and it blows my mind. I don't know how it works. Don't need to.
Well, and that's brings us back to what we were talking about before the show. When Mary sends me her children's books, I start with 2 lines in that book, and I put them up on the program, and it gives me a baseline. This is the same thing that I would do if I were drawing the graphic, or if I were photographing the graphic, or if I were oil painting the graphic. You start with a baseline. You start with an outline. It throws something up that's not really what I wanted. I explain to the program what I want, and eventually it gets there. It may take 2 or 3 times, but it gets me there. It's called refining the description. When I'm doing an oil painting, I see what I want to paint in my head. And as I'm painting, sometimes it doesn't turn out the way it's supposed to. I can do one of 2 things. I can leave it, I can change it, or I can allow it to do what I want it to do by just free thinking, not even thinking, just let the mind take over the hand. That's what AI does for us. Number one, it frees me up to help my authors get their books out in an even more timely manner, because we're not fine-tuning hand-drawn illustrations with erasers and tossing out and starting over. Because every time you start over with a hand graphic that you're doing by hand, if it's not right, you have to toss it out and start over with a baseline again. With
I'll
AI,
give you an example. When I created My Angel book, that was my very first children's book, I couldn't even think of the words that I needed. I knew I wanted to do this. I felt inspired to write the book, but I didn't know how to get started on it. So I wasted 2 weeks agonizing over 8 lines of poem. And when that didn't work, I went to my spot and I prayed about it. And I said, look, you want me to write this book? You're going to have to help me because I can't think of the words. Well, the next thing, I spent 6 weeks hand painting pictures because I felt like, Mel, paint the pictures and the words will come. So I started doing the paintings, and it was okay, but it still wasn't, nothing was clicking. And that's when I started, because my son recommended AI. And 4 months later, I had books in my hand. And most people think that's phenomenal, and it is, because I hand painted and I used AI, and then I got the book going. Well, 4 months for one book. Sally's Heart was done the conventional way, traditional way, I don't know what word I'm looking for. I had an illustrator who drew the pictures, painted the pictures by hand, and took a picture of them, sent them to me, and we went from there. I don't know how long I waited on that. It must have been 6 or 8 months. So in the meantime, I'm working on this and working on that, and I'm just thinking this is such a slow process. I gave Yvonne 3 books on a flash drive that had already been published, and asked her to put them on Midnight Publishing. Well, she still had to work with the images, and she managed it. She did that within, I don't know, I think 24 hours for the first one. But then she told me, she challenged me to just get her as many books as I could, as quick as I could. Within the month of October, I sent her 6 manuscripts. She turned those manuscripts into more than gold. I don't even know what to say. Magic. Because I feel like every one of the books that I've done with Yvonne, it has a dose of magic mixed in with it. And it just feels like, these are the books I wish I could have read to my children when they were small. And now the fact that she can get 6 books out in a month's time, plus she's working with other authors, and she's doing all these little, you call them, these little shorts, the videos, and promoting us like wildfire, and writing her own stuff. That's the power of AI. It frees you. How many of you have heard, work smarter, not harder?
Not harder.
It doesn't detract from our fine art skills. Both Yvonne and I still love to paint. We both love to take photos. It doesn't detract from our other creative outlets. In fact, I think it gives us more freedom. It's given me more freedom.
What I did, ladies and gentlemen, is let's take If I Could Be a Mermaid. When I got that book, I took the lines and I went to my AI program, and I put in there what I was looking for. And I may have 4 or 5 different graphics that I have downloaded just to have in case she didn't like the one that I put up. So what I did is, once I got the graphics that I thought fit the book, I sent her a file with all the graphics and the story, and then she said, can you do something else with this one? So I went back and I found some of my little nuggets that I had put aside. The first thing I sent her was a short of a mermaid swimming away, and I thought she was going to have a heart attack. Since then, I sent her a short of the cover of the mermaid swimming away. I thought she was going to have a heart attack. But that being said, what happens now with the ability of mine to use these programs in AI is the timeline of 4 months to 8 months of getting an illustrated children's book out is down to maybe two
Days.
weeks. Maybe 2 weeks.
And
That's
we're talking from the minute that I give her the manuscript until the book is ready and out there on Amazon. There is no, and I know everybody hasn't done what I've done. I have been writing and holding on to my books for decades because I knew one day I'd be able to get them out there. And heavens to Betsy, y'all, when I first came on board with Yvonne, I was looking for an agent because I thought I had to have an agent in order to get to the next step. You don't. I mean, when you go, if you want to go the traditional publishing way, number one, everything is going to be ultra conservative, ultra traditional, because we've always done it that way. And that way involves, for me, it involves, I sent out, well, first of all, I had to do the research. I had hundreds of agents that I had to decide which ones to email. But I emailed about 10 a day, every day for a couple of months. I was emailing and emailing. And that means you have to customize each email for each agent. And then you have to, I mean, some of them only want the first paragraph. Some only want the first 10 pages. Some want the first 10,000 words. It depends on what they want. So you have to customize your files for everyone as well. So I spent way too much time and of course getting way too many rejections. But let's say, good scenario, if it works the way it's supposed to work, I send out my query, this agent goes, oh my goodness, I can't wait to print this book. I know exactly which publisher wants to buy it. And then you get an advance on your royalties and you live happily ever after in the Hallmark la 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 land. It doesn't always work that way, and it will not work that way for everybody. So Yvonne has taken that one step out. But I didn't tell you, once my agent likes it, then that agent has to sell the book to the publisher, and it sits on the publisher's piles for months. You're doing good if you can get your book done, and I'm talking even children's books, in a year. If you find an agent and they find a publisher, you might have your book done in a year.
and if they give you an advance against your royalties, if your royalties do not exceed that advance, if they don't even reach that advance, you have to pay that publisher back the difference of what you sold versus what they gave you. So when somebody says, yay, I'm getting $1,000 advance on my book, a traditional publisher is going to publish it. Well, if that book doesn't sell $1,000 worth of royalties plus, you're in the hole because you've already gotten $1,000. And if that book only sells $400 in royalties, you got to pay that publisher back $600.
And bear in mind, folks, the cost of a book is not the cost of the book.
Right.
There is a cost for printing. There's a cost, and depending if you're working with Yvonne or not, but with Yvonne, I'll just go with this. There's the cost to print the book. Then there's taxes. Then there's the cost to ship the book. And we all have to pay this. So my cost might be, let's just say it's $5. Then I have to make that much back plus some if I'm going to make any profit. And our books at Midnight Publishing are not expensive. The hardback copies are going to be a little more costly, of course, but everybody expects that. That's you pay for that value. But if I'm going to, like Saturday, I'm going to be selling my books out in public, and I had to pay for my table, so I've got to recoup my money from that. And that I don't upcharge my books, but I have them priced so that the money that I do get back covers that. But I'm still in the hole financially with all of my books. It
And
takes a minute.
you if you're going to if you're going to publish, you have to understand this, that there is a cost factor. It's not just paying for her table. There's her time is worth something. Her gas to and fro is worth something. There's also a meal involved or drink involved. And plus let's all right, one of Mary's children's books, the cost to print the book is what our authors pay to buy the book before taxes and shipping. The cost to print one of Mary's books is $4.20. That's what Amazon charges before we ever do the retail value. So when you see the retail value, that cost is already built in to that book because Amazon is going to get theirs because they're business. So Mary says, Yvonne, I want you to ship me 4 books that cost $4.20. We're going to say if I could be a giant. So 4 times 420 is 1680. That's just for the 4 books, I think. So then you have to add shipping, which runs about $8, and taxes, which is roughly $2 to $3. So if you want to get the final cost to you per book, you divide 4 into the shipping and 4 into the taxes. So you add that 420 to whatever the final division is, and that's the final cost of that one book. When you take it out to sell it, you have to upcharge it at least $5-6 to break even. And Mary and I sat down the other day and I sent her all of the retail for the books, and we sat down and divided the cost of the printing, what it cost her to buy it, plus the shipping and the taxes per book, so she would know what to upcharge for this event on Saturday. When my mother was in business, she was a ceramist and she owned her own shop. And her rule of thumb was the retail cost of any piece is 3.5 times what it cost you to make it.
Absolutely.
And that is the way you should run your books. If you have the ability to give away a book, but don't make it a habit. You're not a nonprofit or not-for-profit business. You are in this to make a little bit of money plus leave your legacy. So when somebody says, oh, I'm going to loan my book to my neighbor, say, no, have your neighbor buy the book. Because for every book that is loaned is lost sales for you.
Oh yeah, and my family is famous for sharing books. And it breaks my heart because, you know what, I don't mind as much them sharing it, but leave me a review.
Exactly.
Come back and tell me, either go on Amazon and leave a review or leave a review on my Facebook page and just put a note. Hey, I read this book. It was gifted to me or whatever, or somebody loaned it to me. I don't care. But here's what I thought about it. Those reviews are like gold.
And the thing with the Amazon reviews is if you have not purchased that book and you want to leave a review on Amazon, they won't let you. You have to purchase that book to leave a review. If you were loaned the book and you want to give a review, send it to Mary individually and we'll make sure it's out there everywhere.
Yeah.
But just, I know, ladies and gentlemen, I know, trust me, I know, you're excited about your book. You want everybody that you know to have one, but have them purchase it. You are not a not-for-profit or non-profit. You put your heart, your blood, your sweat, your tears, your sleepless nights, your
And your
agony,
money.
and your money into creating this piece of art. In our culture, in our world, Mary Jane will go to the local Michael Kors store and spend $1,000 on a pocketbook that probably won't last 6 months. But she's not willing to pay for something that is done individually because
Well,
it's
you
not
know,
name brand.
you cannot walk into any bookstore and tell them, I'd like to read this book, but I don't want to pay for it.
No.
So why would you do that with your family and friends? Why would you give them copies that they don't respect? I don't get it.
My daughter Brandy, she's one of my biggest supporters. She has every one of my books. And I'm going to tell you, when she's at work, it's all about mama's books. And people have bought my books because of her promoting. She has all of them, always has. But she promotes these books like there's no tomorrow. She is one of my marketing agents. I don't mind giving her my books for this reason. But honey,
Just
she
like me
is
with Kathy.
right. Kathy is a friend of hers. Kathy puts Mary's books in her store. We send Kathy books at Mary's cost. Kathy upcharges them and then sends Mary the money. This is how you in order to take pride in your craft, you have to charge for it. It is worth something because you are worth something. And this is the hardest thing for artists to understand is there's that little self-saboteur that sits right here and they go, hey, you might as well give it away. Nobody will want it anyway. No. No, 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 no. You are worth something. You are enough. So do not be afraid to, if your neighbor buys your book and then they say, oh, I loaned it to my cousin 3 steps down and she's going to loan it to her mama, say, no, 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 no. Give them the link, have them buy the book. Because every time a book is bought, you earn money. And you all get every bit of your royalties. No, I don't send them out every month. And the reason for that is because if I send you $1.25, PayPal's going to take that $1.25 because they have a service charge. So your money builds up. And then every 3 months, every 3 to 4 months, I will be sending out royalties. And I'm telling you, the books are selling. They're beginning to sell like crazy. Last month, Bonnie Clark's books blew us away. The first 4 days in this month, Ellie Ryan's books, already 11 copies sold. So understand that we are doing what we can do to keep your legacy out there. And that brings us around to the second part of this show. And that is
Trusting the process.
trusting the process and understanding that when you get advice from well-meaning friends, families, frenemies, acquaintances that A, are not in this business, B, do not understand the process of this business, and B, are frustrated because they want to be in the business and they yet haven't learned how, or they're spending all their time doing what Mary was doing and sending out query letters to people that may or may not ever respond or send them to the bottom of the pile. They're going to be jealous of what you're doing because they want to be you. So they're going to give you all this ill advice, and then you're going to come back to me and say, well, so-and-so said this, and I'm going to say, trust the process. Because I am not going to put anything of yours up that I would not be proud of. Number one, it's my name. And number two, I'm not going to put my stuff up that way. I am very persnickety about what goes up, how it goes up, and what the final product looks like. And when people say, "Well, I have this photograph I want you to use on my cover, and I'm sending it to you via a cell phone photograph," I'm going to come back and say,
Oh no.
"That's not going to work." Number one, cell phones are great for what they are, but as a professional photographer, and Mary will back me up, they are not cameras, number one. And number two, the book covers have a different pixelization. And you're going, what the hell is a pixelization? It is the number of dots, colored dots per inch that are on that picture. So if you send me a photo that you have taken with a cell phone and I have to blow it up to a 6x9 cover and it looks like something from another planet, I'm going to say, not happening. Get mad at me all you want to, but it is not happening. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. And that's why my very first book, Go With Angels, which I'm still working on getting to you, but I'm not ready to, you don't need it yet. But, it has a photograph on it. But when it was rendered, it's been kind of fuzzy and hazy to make it look more artistic. I don't know what Yvonne will do with it, but I know that Curtis and I spent many hours on Cocoa Beach with a ladder and a camera, a really nice camera too, to take the photo from several directions, several angles, to make it what we wanted. Because we didn't want anything in the background. We didn't want to spend time photoshopping it out. So we made it the old-fashioned way. We just took it somewhere where there were no distractions. But it's hard to get a photograph to be what you want it to be on a book. It just doesn't usually go well.
And by the time you crop it, and by the time you take out the distractions, because most people who are amateur photographers do not understand the focal point of what you're trying to get in a photograph. So you have all these background distractions. Well, by the time you crop that picture down to what it is that you really want and you blow it up, there's nothing there because it is too small. So understand, when I come back and say this is not going to work, there's two reasons. The pixelization is not going to work, and number two, I always say, do you want to stand out or do you want to blend in this mass army of books that is thrown at people on a daily basis? Do you want your book to be something that somebody remembers? They may not remember the name of the book, but when we send them out, they're going to remember the name of the cover, and they will look for that cover because we're going to keep blasting them with that cover. So you have to ask yourself, am I going to be mediocre, or am I going to be the powerhouse I know I am? Am I right, Mary?
You are. And that was the first thing you asked me when we got ready to do Faith and Folly.
Yep.
Do you want to stand out or you want to blend in? And of course, I don't want to blend in. That is just, it's unacceptable.
Oh, tell them about the short for Faith and Folly that's up for the cover.
Oh my gosh, it's so cute. I mean, she took the cover and animated it and put music to it, and it looks just like the jester is walking down to you to entertain you.
And he's laughing.
He's laughing, and you hear the music, you hear him laughing, and it's just magical. I actually did a presentation once for an event, and I was talking about how AI was factored into my work at that time. And the at the end I had questions and answers, and this one guy said, I don't have a question, I have a statement. I'm like, oh, okay. And he said, I want you to know that I don't consider AI as artificial intelligence. I said, well, what do you call it? He goes, I call it divine intelligence. Because the divine had to create these people who came up with the ideas to create these images or these programs. He said, AI is nothing short of God working through man to get these results that we're all looking for.
And let's take this one step further. We now have robotic surgery.
Yes, and we have had for years.
For years. And the I don't want to say speed, but the cleaner surgery that you can have, the less infection is prone to set in. So with
And
robotic
that
surgery,
robot doesn't shake.
no, it does not shake. It does not normally blow out blood veins and arteries. And what it does is it's very precise. If it's calculated right, it is very precise with minimal invasive surgery. And it goes in, it does its thing, it comes out, and more times than not, they just glue back the incision. There's hardly any more stitches anymore. They're the glue, staples, or steri strips. It's the same thing with AI. AI is only as good as the person that is doing the input. When computers first came out, you would have thought that the second coming of Armageddon was upon us. People fought computers. I embraced them because I like learning things.
Yes.
It's going to be the ruination. Oh, it opened up doors for us in the
How
office.
many of us drive around in cars, hybrid cars or electric cars? And, I'm of an age that my grandparents, who were born in the early 1900s, and their parents never, well, their parents, my great-grandparents, never drove cars. They only rode horses or drove buggies. My grandmother, I guess I was about 10 years old when my grandmother got running water in her house. She had to use an outhouse. And we talked about that a little earlier. But it's just, if we don't embrace technology, we're going to be like the Amish, and there's nothing wrong with the Amish, but they don't use any technology. How many of us are of an age that we remember not owning a cell phone?
I grew up not owning one.
Yes. My 20, almost 21-year-old grandson has never not known that they existed. His mother and father had a cell phone when he was born. So to him, it's not a big deal. But to those of us who, even my sons didn't grow up with cell phones. They got them in their mid-20s, I'd say. I didn't give them a cell phone. They had to buy it themselves. And why are we afraid of AI?
Because they don't understand it.
But yet, we have cell phones, we have computers, we have remote controlled televisions that are as big as a wall, we have microwaves, we have air fryers, we have rotisserie grills. I mean, we have cars. This is another thing I think we talked about. I don't know if it was on or after the show started. But Henry Ford, when he first started mass producing, I mean, there were cars made before Henry Ford, but he was the one who started mass producing them. They all had to be cranked with a big crank on the front of the car, and it took energy. It took a lot of muscle power to do that. That's why women didn't drive much in those days, because now there were some women who did use the crank cars, and they actually traveled cross country, but they were the exception, not the rule. And how many of us of a certain age grew up learning to drive a stick shift? Automatic cars were not a big deal. Everybody knew how to do the H symbol or the column. We knew how to do it. And those days, instead of the big crank on the front that took 15 minutes to crank the car, we had a little key. You just put it in the ignition and turn it, and boom, the car goes. Now we have remote controls or fobs. We press the button, keep the key in the car, you press the button on the dashboard. There are some that you can remote crank up. You can have the fob in your hand and press a sequence of buttons, or put it on your smartphone. Inside your house, you can crank up your car if it's a cold day. Nobody thinks twice about that because it's just innovation. It's just new things. It's just the next big thing. Why should our software, our technology, for how we illustrate things be any different?
Remember when silent films came out and then voice came out, there was a big baloo. This will never work because you won't be able to get the voice to match the lips, and when
the talkies,
and then when graphics came out for the movies, the Star Wars movies and the Matrix, when all that came out,
CGI.
It won't work. It won't work. Star Wars was one of the highest revenue in films ever made, and from that went other things. When the cars first came out, people said that will never fly. It is a one man's foolish dream. It will never take off. Well, now we can't live without our cars, just like most of us cannot live without a cell phone.
And don't forget the Wright brothers.
The Wright brothers. That'll never happen. If it were meant for men to fly, they'd have been given wings. So just because someone does not understand how something works doesn't mean that it's not a good thing. I've been using computers since 1997 with the old docs method where you had to go in and tell the doc matrix printer. You had to go in and tell the computer what you wanted it to bring up, and you had to use a floppy disk drive just to get the program you wanted. We've advanced so far in technology. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when I first wrote Dreamcatcher, failure was never an option. I had to manually put it in an envelope, send it to a publisher, and wait for a rejection letter. There was time, there was money, there was postage, there was heartache. When I decided to get in this business for myself, the only publisher that I could use was Lulu. Look where we've come in 20 years. I don't have to wait and do Lulu. I hated Lulu. It was too hard to work. It aggravated me. We now go right to Amazon. Mary doesn't have to wait 8 months back and forth with illustrations, back and forth with drawings. I send her a graphic on a completed manuscript. We either talk to each other on the phone, or she sends me an email. I go and fix what she wants fixed, and we move on. A couple of days later, it's up.
So and you know what I love? I love whenever I have an issue. Usually the issues with her illustrations, and I understand this, and I want everybody else to understand it too. When she sends me this draft, That's is the roughest draft possible. It's a concept. But it gives me a chance to see where her brain is, and she realized, she knows I'm going to pick it apart. That's just part of my editorial.
She can't help it.
But I'm work. I'm a work in progress, and I've learned to trust the process. I've learned to let go. Count your blessings.
She's much better.
But
Much,
I
much better.
still require my people in the images to have no more than 5 fingers.
But see, you took all
So
the
if I
fun out
see
of the
an image
giants.
that, but oh my gosh, y'all don't know the technology for even that has come so very far. And there's sometimes that might be a situation where I know there was one I said, I think it was sharks, but it might have been rules. And that child no, it was giants. That child looks like a teenager. He doesn't look like a child who is a giant. He just looks like a big kid. So when I told her, I said, I really would like for this guy to be younger, not smaller, but younger. And I always have a list of things I want her to fix. And she goes back to her file of images, because she's smart, she keeps them. And instead of remaking the whole engine, she just pulls out something that actually is better. It works so much better. And I can't praise the technology enough, because it's helped me publish 6 books in a month.
And the thing is,
Yes, I had those 6 books already completed on a file.
but they were sitting there.
But they were going to sit there for another 6 or 8 years, or 15, like one of them. I mean, my children's books. Oh, I think I said Mermaids was like 35 years old.
Yeah.
I had it on my computer. I had talked to an illustrator. She said she would do it, and she sent me just enough to make me drool. And then she came back and she said, I don't really want my name associated with children's books. I'm not going to do this. I said, I am willing to pay you, and we can use another name if you don't want to use your name. No, what it was she didn't want to commit any more time to it.
And
then,
that is the problem with illustrators now, Mary, is, and I say this in a general context, so y'all don't get excited. Especially with the younger generation, there's no commitment to the craft. They want it done yesterday, or they want to do it yesterday because they want to move on to the next thing. Yes, I do AI graphics, but y'all have no idea how many hours I sit trying to find the perfect graphics. And it's like Mary said, I will download 4 or 5 different graphics of the same thing, different ways. So I have a backup plan. And if none of those fit, I go back to the drawing board. It is a commitment. I'm not going to do this today and move on to something else tomorrow. If it's not right, it doesn't go out. And that's with most of these illustrators.
Another bit of technology that we have not even questioned is, here we are on Riverside Studio, streaming live.
Yep.
A lot of technology came about as a need. I mean, I remember a long time ago we had Skype.
Yep.
Skype no longer exists. There are a lot of other options. Skype was a cheap, free way to communicate across state lines or whatever. But even if you look at the images here, there's me in my office with my teal curtain, and there's Yvonne in her space with her shelves behind her. If we were to ask AI to create an image of a woman doing a live podcast, which is what this is, they're going to automatically put earphones and a microphone in front of her.
Yep.
That's how they imagine podcast. But they would come up with 4 to 6 images, just like you got Yvonne on one side, me on the other. They'd have maybe 2 or 3 more that are slightly different. They might have younger people or older people. They might have people of color. They may not have people of color. It depends on how the program was built. But if we can embrace things like Riverside FM and Skype, well, Skype's dead. GoToMeet or whatever Google calls their, or Microsoft calls their new meeting thing. There are a lot of meeting options, and Zoom. A lot of people love Zoom, a lot of people hate Zoom. But it's an option to have a conversation with people who don't live in your house. And when I had Be Unique, I mean, we had people in, I think, 3 or 4 different states, and on our board, and we would meet monthly, have a board meeting, and there'd be, 6 to 8 windows open while we had our discussion. It's another tool so that you don't have to get on an airplane or get in a car and drive for your board meeting. AI is nothing more than another tool.
And let's talk about, since you brought Zoom up, and what our plan is for after the first of the year, because we do have so many authors and so many people in so many places. Mary and I plan on holding a workshop that is free. Again, there's no hidden cost. And we were going to do it locally. However, Mary had this wonderful idea, and I'm going to let you run with it.
Well, if you have a writers' conference, you have to gather up a lot of experts, and you have to have a lot of rooms. So you have to have a place, a venue to rent. That costs money. And Yvonne doesn't charge a penny for her. If you are a Midnight Publishing author, you get all of her services for free. If you want to not be an author, I mean, this could apply to any business. It doesn't have to be books. If you would like for Yvonne to create a short video for you, like she does all of her authors, she'll do it for $10. And all that does is help defray the cost of giving the service to her authors for free. So we thought, well, we can put more rooms in Zoom, and most people have Zoom. Not everybody has access to Riverside. So we thought we would do a Zoom meeting after the first of the year, and it will be us presenting little mini lessons, mini lectures on a variety of topics. And one of those topics is how you can use your own AI, or we can do. I want to talk about how writers can self-edit. And I had a list started. I don't know what I did with it. I got busy promoting my books because 6 books, people, that nobody knows about. I got to get you all acquainted with my books. And then I got to go back to my older books, and meanwhile I'm still writing. But we want to talk about, some of the things that you would typically have at a writer's convention or conference. What do you do when you can't think of what you need to write? How do you get yourself out of a funk? I don't believe in writer's block. I just don't believe it exists. I think that it's as we would say back in the 70s, it's a cop-out. It's an easy excuse for why you're not writing. And trust me, there are times that the words don't come from me either, but I find a way to make them come. And we want to talk about publishers' guidelines or requirements. And there are, why do we do this? Why do we expect people to do um, to follow what we think is important? Because if you want to work with us, you want to make it easy for the mama bear.
The, the, I know a lot of authors, especially first time authors, they want to make the interior pretty with all of the extra scrolls and flowers and uh, mini graphics. Let me tell you something. A reader does not give two hoots about those extras. All the reader wants are the words in paragraph form, in readable form. In children's books, all the reader or the child wants is the graphics with the lines. They don't want all of this extra stuff, which A, costs more to print, takes up page lines that can be used for your words, and makes me want to pull my hair out when I have to go into the footers and headers and take them out. And I will take them out. I learned a long time ago that all the extras are not necessary. Are they pretty? Yes. Do they enhance the book? No, they take away from the meat of the book. And that is what you are trying to get across is the meat of the book. If you're at a restaurant and you order a steak and the chef sends out this plate with a steak that's this big and all around it is a radish that's carved like a flower, a piece of lettuce that is rolled like something else, are you going to be happy? I would
Oh
say
no.
probably not. If you order a steak, you want the steak. You don't want the dressing. It's the same with the books. When people buy a book, they don't want all the extra stuff. It's not important. It doesn't enhance the story. So it will go away. It's just the way it is. Am I right?
Absolutely. And the thing is, um, it, it like Sherry Richardson, her book was a coffee table book. So that's a little different story. There are times when you do want images, but you got to make sure you understand. And these are the things that we're going to talk about in depth in our conference. You know, why it has to be this way rather than that way. And it's really pretty simple. Yvonne's been doing this for umpteen years. And she knows. She knows that people Kindle. Another example. The people who read Kindle books only want the words. They don't care how much white space is between chapters because they're probably not going to be flipping pages or clicking a button. They're just going to be reading and it just flows naturally. Um, so when you send Yvonne something that is all flowered up, you give her more work.
And it will go away. Also, with the Kindle books, what people who are not in the industry do not understand is people that read, that download Kindle, download it on their Kindle device, download it on their computer device, download it on this thing. Now, if you have never read a book on your phone,
Ooh.
you're going to have words here, then you're going to have chapter 2 here because Kindle doesn't understand white space. It's an electronic device. Some people may even read it on their uh, television. And because it is an electronic device, they read it on their iPad. It does not understand pages. It does not understand page breaks. It does not understand chapters. It does what it's going to do. Be grateful it's up on Kindle. There is no other publisher that I know of where you pay that publisher to publish your books that does not charge you every time they put up a different format, because
Oh, yes.
each format is done differently. Your hardcovers have a wrap. You have to, in fact, Mary's book, The World's Best Grandfather, is large enough I can put it in hardcover, but I have to deconstruct that complete cover and start over to get it in hardcover form, because a hardcover has what's called a wrap. And if part of your front cover gets into that wrap, Amazon's going to come back and say, "What are you thinking? Have you lost your mind? This is not how we do things." There is a space between the spine and the front and back covers that you have to make sure that your front and back cover fill up to the spine, or else they're going to kick it back and say, "Have you lost your mind?" So I have to deconstruct. I had to deconstruct one this morning, Fractured Soul by Gwendolyn Law, because it kicked it back twice and said, "This is not going to work. Do something else with it if you want it in hardcover." So I had to deconstruct the front cover and start over and hope that they take it this time. The Kindle version, and this is hard for some people to understand, the Kindle version, you pixelate. It's not by inches, it's by pixels. It's 625 for width and 1000 for height. So it looks like your cover is stretched because it's going on an electronic device. When you get your paperback or your hardback, it's not stretched. So there's all of the, and the Audible is the same way, because I use the same cover for Kindle that I have to use for the Audible. So any other publisher is going to charge you because that's man hours that they have to
Every
do.
single time they touch it.
They charge you for it. We don't. When I start putting up your book, it goes up on every format I can get it. When the book goes live on Kindle, I go back in and put it up on Audible. And Gwendolyn Law, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Gwendolyn Law's book, September's Chill, which is her life in domestic violence. She has a son who, for whatever reason, has a learning disability. He can't read. She downloaded the Audible version for him, and she said that was the greatest gift she could have given him.
Oh.
So if it goes up on Kindle, and it has to be 79 pages, and it has to be chapters, so the children's books do not go up on Audible. I'm still figuring out how we can do something I can put up on YouTube for children that have a learning disability, so that they can see it in visual form. That's a work in progress. Might not be done today or tomorrow, but you know me, I think outside the box. So
I love that idea.
yeah, and we can do a subscribe to that, and they can pay it, and then we'll get royalties, a minimal fee, and that goes back into your royalty box. But I'm working on that, so y'all just bear with me on that. But the thing is, how many publishers do you know that will do that for you? If you send a children's book to Joe Blow's Publishing House, they're going to charge you for the illustrator. They're going to charge you for the editing. They're going to charge you for the formatting. They're going to charge you for publishing that book in whatever format they publish it. Right?
Exactly right.
And every time that book is touched, there's a charge. Because God loaned me this business with the condition that I give back. That's why we don't charge here. I don't charge my authors, and I spend hours. Oh, when publishers market your book, that's part of the package. I got a thing today. You have your book, an email. You've got your book on Kindle. Now let me help you make it great. Excuse me. Have you read?
You
Yeah.
know what drives me crazy about those is they hit brand new authors and they hit older authors who don't
Mm-hmm.
have a clue. And they make it sound like they are your new best friend and they want
Yep.
nothing but to promote your book. And they make it sound like they're going to do it for free. And then they zap you with $500. Oh, is that too much? We can come down on price. We can give you this, that, or the other. But my thing is, if you want to help me promote my book, or you think my book doesn't have enough reviews, I even told one of my, they catch me on a bad day. Sometimes I just take them and delete them. But I like to read, the little ego in me likes to see what they say about my book. And usually you can tell that they haven't actually read it. They've just plugged the book into AI and it goes, oh, here's what it is. But I told one, I said, you want to help me promote my book? That's wonderful. Buy a copy, leave a review. And then tell all your friends to buy a copy and leave a review. Better yet, buy 50 copies, leave a review, and give those copies to students and
Right.
ask the teacher and their parents to leave a review. That's how you can help me.
So don't be sucked in by this wonderful sales job they're snowing you with, because they want to charge you. Ellie Ryan, she sent me a message the other day. She said, I'm sending you something. Will you look at this? So I read it. I sent it back to her. I said, run just as fast. She says, it's phishing. I said, exactly. And she's a brand new author. And we had warned her ahead of time, don't fall for it because they will suck you dry. And 9 times out of 10, they don't do what you've paid them to do.
No, they all they do is take your money.
And we don't want that to happen. It's happened to too many indie authors who were so anxious to get out there and be a best-selling author. Let me tell you about best-selling authors. Let me tell you how they get on the New York Times bestseller list. Like I said, I've been in this business a long time. When the new book list, the new book release list is sent to bookstores, the publishers say, check what books you like the best. You being the manager of the bookstore. So the manager of the bookstore, let's say they like James Patterson. There's 20 managers out there and they're madly in love with James Patterson. So they tick off James Patterson, they send it back to the publisher. Well, all of a sudden, this particular book's on the New York Times bestseller list. It has nothing to do with the sales of the book. Nothing to do. It has to do with marketing. It has to do with, let's send this list out to all these bookstores and they can tell us what they like the best. That's a New York Times bestseller list. It has, no. So, if you are writing with the intent of being a million book seller, find another passion. If you're writing because that is the legacy that you want to leave behind, don't stop writing. Case in point, and I go back to Poe every time. Poe died penniless. They're even debating on whether or not William Shakespeare really wrote all the stuff he wrote.
Yep.
However, centuries later, we're reading Poe like he's the newest thing since sliced bread. The first horror movie I ever watched at 13 years old was The House of Usher, written by Poe, with Vincent Price as the main character. Nevermore has become, everybody all of a sudden loves Nevermore. William Shakespeare is played in theaters all over the world. I had to learn Brutus's soliloquy after he murdered Caesar in high school.
Yep.
These men were not well received when they were alive. So think of your book as something that you leave behind between the dashes, right?
Right.
And
You,
this is why we write.
I don't understand, but I'm so grateful that everybody is different. We all have a different calling. From the time, I don't remember ever not reading, not writing, or not editing. I remember when I started painting. I remember when I started doing photography. I don't remember not reading and writing. Um, that's been my life. For me, writing is as important as breathing. And I know that everybody's not like that. But to just write, I mean, I've written for all my life, and it just sat there.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm actually getting it out into the world, and that feels, it's a different kind of high. It just feels so right to me to be able to say I'm an author. And I remember when I first started, I'd say, I'm a published author. And I'm like, no, I'm just an author. Whatever. It is what it is. Everybody might not have 50 books that they've been working on for years. But everybody has a book. And just like Gwendolyn,
Yes.
once she got that first book out, it was like somebody lit a match to her fuse. And she's been trying to keep the fire going without burning out.
Yep. Her and Sherry Ann Richardson, because Sherry Ann sent me Under the Dragon's Eye after she got The Chocolate Lover's Garden, which was a 35-year dream, 25-year dream. Under the Dragon's Eye, she wrote in high school. So, what happens when you hold that first book in your hand?
Oh my God, it's like, for me, being a mother, I could remember when my sons were born. This was even, I'm not going to say it was more special, but it was more personal.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I gave birth to my human babies, there was another human involved in that. These books, especially my fiction books, oh, they come from a place inside me that I can't even begin to describe how special it feels. Like this right here, Steep Steps. Holding this in my hands is like, it's just a piece of my soul. Now, a lot of people were involved in getting it to the point that it's at, because I had readers, I had editors, I had proofreaders,
Professionals.
but it's still my book. It still came from my mind. And it is, for me, almost every book I've written has some healing power to it. Whether I'm sharing my knowledge, like in If I Could Be a Giant, which is a anti-bullying book that never once uses the word bully.
Nope.
We don't give the bullies that power. We just talk about it. And all of my If I Could books are, what was it you told me the other day? A little bit of magic with a life lesson.
There you go. So with that, we're gonna close this podcast because I have to go to the bowling alley. And Our bottom line is we are here for you. When God and I had this conversation, I fully knew what He expected. And I accepted His challenge without hesitation. He gets all the glory for all of the greatness that has happened with all the authors coming on, with Mary's 6 children's books that sat on a shelf for years that are now out there. The last ones are coming out on the 14th. If you have not joined the Midnight Publishing Facebook group page, do it, because that's where we start with the promotions. If you have not subscribed to the web page, it is it is Midnight Publishing is midnight-publishing.org. I can't talk. midnight-publishing.org. That is our web page. We are up to almost 1,800 views. So every day something new goes up. I'm still putting up the covers, the cover shorts with all the authors. Again, that takes a moment. Go to the YouTube channel. It's under Yvonne Mason and Midnight Publishing. Go to my Facebook page, Yvonne Mason. Go to Mary Brotherton's Facebook page. Go to Off the Chain. That's where this thing goes live. We are here. We want to make you successful. We want to help you on your journey. I see that look.
Another thing, another place that you excel where other publishers don't. You have so many social outlets out there. Everything but Snapchat and TikTok, I think.
Yep, don't do Snapchat because it goes away. And TikTok and I are having an argument. It's their loss.
But so many publishers have their website, and that's it. They might have LinkedIn for the publisher, the higher up. They might have a Facebook or an X account, but they don't have Instagram. They don't have YouTube. They're not out there making videos of your book covers, of your image. The authors' little shorts, they blew me away because everyone is different, and they captured a part of us and I think that's why some of the writers are a little intimidated, because they captured without being told what to do. But I loved mine, absolutely, because it was so me, just sitting there laughing.
If you're in the Cocoa area, if you're in the Cocoa Beach area, Mary and I will be at the Cocoa Village under the gazebo Saturday from 10 till 4.
Correct.
Come by and see us. Mary will have all of her books. And if I can figure out how to do live without using my phone, I may have to use my phone. But one way or another, we're going to be doing a live, if it's just a mini live. So
yeah, we can do a little mini live on Facebook with the phone easily.
We can do lots of things because we know how to think without a box. We are not trapped. Midnight Publishing is not trapped into a square box, a round box, a rectangular box, a 2x4 set.
Nobody box.
You never know what's going to happen. Be ready to embrace the unexpected.
I will have some giveaways. I will have lots of hugs.
There you go. Because she's getting a load of books today. A load of books today. So
I'm excited.
Until next Wednesday, this is Yvonne Mason with Mary Brotherton. Have the day you deserve.
Bye, everybody.
And see us on our Facebook pages. Bye, honey.
Yeah,
I'll talk to you
come
later.
Come to Cocoa Village on Saturday, November 8th. And
there you go.
You get a double whammy.
There you go. See you then.
All right, bye.
Bye.